Hello everyone, I'm Raven the Swift, and if you watch my channel, I do reviews of foam fighting and steel fighting, and I put together some information for the audience. And today we're going to step into the wonderful world of Dagahir slash Belagarth single blue, aka single sword tournaments. We're going to be a little more faster today, talking about some mistakes people are making and that could be causing them harm, as far as physically harming them or harming their gains and trying to win tournaments. So today we're going to look at the Oktoberfest 23 single blue tournament. This was obviously from October, and this is relatively new stuff. So if you stick around later in the video, we're going to get to some really deep stuff that can really help your gains if you're looking for, as far as learning stuff about footwork, body mechanics, and getting punished for restricting your fighting too narrowly. All right, let's get into it. Okay, 2 pits on a bracket. Looks like best try to 3. Vash coming in here with a direct attack. Didn't cover his direct attack well enough, and didn't come back to guard quick enough, and he's going to get punished here by an inside slot shot. Again, if you watch my videos, we don't talk about people taking shots or not taking shots, as I don't find it to be very constructive. Both fighters make a direct attack there. Looks like Vash wins. Best try of 3. Vash threw a direct attack to their hip, and he won. Oh, let me clear that. 2 really agile fighters here. Both of them get stabbed. Double tap in the backup. Let's go back real quick. Why does this happen? Okay, well, this guy lunges in with a direct attack with his sword. And you'll notice something that's going to be coming up later in the video. This guy basically, on the left here in the tabard, initiates with an attack to his opponent's sword. And as we know, attacking the opponent's sword, and if you're not manipulating them out of position, you're basically just wasting an action. So he's going to get punished here, and his opponent's going to hit him in the arm. Swings at the opponent's sword. He misses, gets countered. That's what happens when you swing in a space. You open yourself up to being able to be countered, and his opponent did so. Alternatively, if you're going to do that, you need to make sure you're moving your opponent out of position so they can't do that, moving their sword specifically, or not committing as hard. So you jab at them, they elicit a response back to you, you counter their jab, and kill them. I don't know who this person is here. I believe they're from the Ebonlight unit. They're very good. I was very impressed. I don't know who they are, but I was very impressed by their fighting. Good call on the Simo. Also, I don't know if that's the Ebonlight company. I don't know Dagahir units. I'm just taking a guess. Fighter with the red gloves there kind of came in with a reckless attack. Needs to cover their entrance a little bit more. That way they don't get hit as they come in. The pirate and the maid. I don't know who the pirate is, but the maid is Sir Shimazu from Rivermore. They're an amp guarder. Shimazu has really good stabs, really good direct attacks. Shimazu made quick work of the opponent's weak guard. Good cover there by the fighter with the red gloves. This is Warlord Callister versus an unknown fighter. Unknown to me, at least. I'm going to say earlier in the video, this is actually provided by Gorg the Blacksmith YouTube channel. He didn't necessarily provide it, I just went to his YouTube channel and started covering it. But Gorg makes good stuff. So if you want to buy Belagarth Dagahir equipment, Gorg's a good place to go. If you're not looking at other options too. Optimum Arms also makes really good stuff. I like this sword foot back position by the fighter in purple here, when you're sword foot back, you got to be willing to use that lead hand to block for yourself. Really commit to blocking those stabs. She could have killed the fighter in brown here. Fighter in brown there showing some block strike technique. They look like they're a wayfinder, I'm guessing. Good, judging by their belt favor. I don't actually know. I think they're a wayfinder. I don't know. Fighter in black using that good block strike technique. Good honor there by the fighter in brown. Got hit in the side by the fighter in the purple. So one thing I notice about a lot of DAG fighters, probably due to the proliferation of the Amir being very good, is that a lot of people use a lot of block strike styles. I wish people would do a little bit more. I wish people would do things more offensively that just got the fight over with quicker and that were also safer. And one of those ways is manipulating the opponent's guard, moving their equipment out of the way, throwing the inside arm, getting the job done a bit faster. Both fighters here pawing at each other. And they... Simon? Maybe she got hit in the arm? Not sure. If I had to guess about Ox, I think they had a costume contest, so everyone has a costume on. Noting the marshal in the background, who clearly is in a costume, which I really like. Fighter in purples here, their sword is pointed very forward, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they're doing so with not a lot of offense. I'd really like to see the fighter in black manipulate their sword out of the way and take purple and black, or fighter in purple sword arm. A lot of people don't use those types of techniques, but they're very, very powerful against an opponent who is either hesitating, maybe they have poor mechanical positioning, perhaps they have a weak guard of some type, but it's definitely, you can definitely take advantage of it. The Amir guy, I don't know who this person is, it's hard to tell who they are, hesitated quite a bit coming in. I'm going to go back because I think it's important. So he catches his first block, which I love. Catches, maybe? It looks like it bounced off his hand. No, he got hit in the arm. I take that back. I like how this fighter with the green armbands is using a two-handed blue. While I like that the Amir fighter here initiated with a good progressive series of attacks, those attacks, when you do get them, have to be more direct against the person with the green sword here. They have to be more direct because you have to take advantage of the space that you're getting. Fighter in brown here is using some secret tech. Or you like it. His fighting is not that bad. Very good footwork. I wish, along with his footwork, I wish he would stayed more in his stance. Because something you're going to see that happens later on is if you throw a straight shot, this is very available. Unfortunately, this guy gets away. And I wish this person was more likely to move forward. Let's move back here. So he misses the shot, misses the arm. Cool. But he's already stretched out here with his legs, and it's going to be a little harder to take another step. He does bring his back foot up, and he's going to lunge in. Gets this lunge. Unfortunately, I think if he committed to the lunge a little better and kept his foot on the ground, he might be able to get a little bit more reach with this. Unfortunately, he did the other thing. Let's see if I can pause at the right moment. When he lunges and comes up, his foot isn't off the ground, so now he can't defend himself. Instead of coming straight up out of your lunge, what you actually want to do is just bring your back foot in and squat a little bit. You don't actually need to come up at all. And thus, if you're able to bring your back foot up and lower your center of gravity, you're able to keep your stance, you're able to keep fighting. When you come up and out of your stance, you're not able to move, you're not able to fight correctly in that exchange phase of the fight. But he gets the counter here because his footwork's not bad. He's very good at luring his opponent out, punishing them for poor positioning. I also like their use of stabs. Lots of stabs. It's always good. Sheeran here doing another direct attack. His center of gravity is quite high. His hand is quite high. He's leaving a lot of vulnerability here to his torso and his thigh. Luckily, his opponent hits him in the face. But you notice, even just on a simple attack like that, he actually had to bring his foot up because his center of gravity is so high. We're actually going to slow it down for a second so I can show you guys. When you keep your stance low, you're able to take the exact amount of steps that you want to take. Anything more than that could potentially lead to danger if the attack that you're doing failed. Like if you fail to kill your opponent and because of how you're moving your body, you're forced to make extra movement, they can punish you for it. But if you have good stance, you can control that and you can move precisely. Even just on a simple attack here, Vash has to take another step because his weight is high and his footwork was very committed and high. Even that, he missed his first attack, and the opponent could very easily punish him for it. In this moment of time, he's stunned and can't move. Luckily, she missed her attack. You have to be wary that if you position yourself poorly, that you're a smart opponent and a capable opponent, also capable, will be able to counter you. This is a long fight here with Shimazu and Warlord Paulo. I don't think Paulo has a persona name, so I'll just call him Paulo. Both these fighters are very good. I would say the difference of these fighters is actually diametrically opposed to one another. Shimazu loves really committed direct attacks. He has good footwork. He likes drawing his opponent, and he has lots of range, and he can punish people if they come into range. Paulo has a very good his hands have very good fundamentals. He knows good block strike, comes from a lineage of good block strike, stuff like that. And you'll see in this fight that one of the weaknesses that Paulo possibly has, that he does has with his footwork, is that against an opponent who has superior range than him and does not let him play his game, he will get countered for. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean that it's simply as in an academic manner. These are things that we have to fix as far as skills and things that we have to fix in our combat computer that lets us fight, or in our fight logic, as I like to say. But we're going to take a look at it. You can just tell by Shimazu's body language, his chest is forward, but he's constantly taking steps back, pawing at Paulo, getting Paulo to come out, baiting him out. This is obviously very dangerous, as we know, because Shimazu has the reach advantage. He wants to punish Paulo as he comes into the exchange, into the middle of the fight, right? He's trying to catch Paulo in his opener and punish him for it. Shimazu just throwing feints, trying to bait him. Shimazu throws a committed attack there, gets lucky. Paulo's hand was in the right space to not be able to counter him super well, unless Paulo stabbed him. But I want to say, even from a footwork perspective with Shimazu, what we talked about earlier, Shimazu's going to commit to his first movement, his foot's off the ground. At this point, Shimazu can't move. If Paulo wanted to, if Paulo's feet weren't so wide, if it was a little less wide, Paulo could take a half step. I'm just going to use this tool real quick. Paulo could actually take wrong tool. It's not working. Paulo could take a half step towards Shimazu, and actually stab him right here. Right, Shimazu's hand is down. Paulo's hand is the correct angle to be able to stab him. Unfortunately, Paulo's stance is actually quite a bit wide. His feet in the right position, but his stance is a little wide. I would ideally like this foot to be like right there. I know it's a wiggly line, I'm sorry. But if his feet were a little bit closer together, this would enable him to take this half step forward and stab the crap out of Shimazu. Okay? Hope that makes sense to everyone. Unfortunately, I have to settle for throwing a up-handed wrap chop thing. I will say one interesting thing about Shimazu's positioning here is that because his torso and his hand is high, it makes it hard to interact with in a block strike capacity. Like, Paulo can't really throw his hand up and in to like do these stop hits to him. So it kind of messes with Paulo's block strike a little bit stylistically. And that's not something we always think about, but it is little nuanced things that kind of mess up your processing. They trade arms here. Simo. Yeah, there. Paulo fixes his foot positioning. I like it. Shimazu's kind of lulling him here, baiting him. Shimazu's not showing very much, being very tentative. He's not really showing much interest in coming at Paulo. But Paulo recognizes the danger here, obviously. Shimazu switches hands. They're hand matched now. Bam, there it is. So something that happens, Shimazu baits him in. Paulo's first movement, outside of his stance, which obviously exposes you. Everyone needs to look at this. He takes a first step from his movement towards Shimazu. He throws a feint at Shimazu. The tip of his sword is here. Right? This is probably like 2 feet, maybe a foot, maybe 18 inches, somewhere around there from Shimazu. So, Paulo's first movement out of his stance exposes him to being able to be countered because Paulo did not threaten Shimazu in a way that actually would stun him. Additionally, Paulo's first movement does not end in a way that intersects with their swords. Now, the reason I say this is when you throw a jab, you want to be able to cover yourself. This is a very common setup for people to throw. They'll throw a loop or something like that. Unfortunately, the issue in this case is doing the loop in a hand match situation doesn't always leave your hand in a position to cutting off the lane, right? Like when I throw an outside shot, I really like throwing backhand because it leaves my hand in the way, right? Our swords are intersecting in some type of way. Or if you don't want to do that and you throw a straight chop, when my hand is there and our swords are touching, normally the tip of my sword would be basically here, right? And it occupies the space between me and my opponent in such a way that they can't hit me. Unfortunately, with the way that this feint works, Paulo's sword is so this is vertical. This is also vertical. And there's space here on the inside of Paulo's center lane. Now what's going to happen is because there's space here and he might feel danger, when Shimazu steps in, he's going to basically hit Paulo right here in the arm. Because he has a 50-50 shot because this is vertical and this is vertical. There's a 50-50 shot if Shimazu goes here or here, which is not great for making predictions, right? So let's go back. And now his hand does loop back, but they're too far away for his hand to actually be blocking anything. Shimazu just throws around his hand basically and catches him somewhere in the circle and catches him before his hand can get back. Shimazu throwing a really goofy ass stab here. I would say I hate the look of this stab fundamentally, but I will say when you have a fighter that has very disciplined behaviors, you can kind of mess with those behaviors by showing them something odd. And Shimazu just throws a weird stab here. Shimazu shows him the lunge. Paulo's probably looking to block here, so he's not thinking about moving. If Paulo moved, he would not be able to get hit by the stab. But I do this all the time where I'm waiting for for me to block so I can riposte. Shimazu throws a double feint here, basically. Covers his center line with his hand, right? Shimazu's blocking a significant portion of his body while his hand is open to throw the stab. So no matter what, unless Paulo throws to Shimazu's body here, there's a good chance that Shimazu's going to block both of these top quadrants with his arm. So good math here. Shimazu's using one limb to block off two quadrants. His hand's basically blocking this, so like Paulo's not going to throw a money shot or anything like that. And Shimazu's going to stab him in an open area. And unless Paulo throws that body here, which he probably wouldn't because it's an odd behavior to do, Shimazu's going to win. Yep, he got hit in the arm. Paulo trying to be very disciplined here, using good technique, trying to bait Shimazu in, but Shimazu just doesn't want to play. Shimazu does not want to play at this exchange range, right? He doesn't want to play close up because he's disadvantaged at it. But he can play at range, forcing Paulo to come out, or he can fully commit to the movement and be totally fine. Little Paulo normally being very patient. It makes the first movement cool. He's cleared the opening distance. He's made a clean shot against his opponent. He missed. His opponent also missed him. Now, this is actually the time where I want this foot to be down. This back foot needs to recover to basically here to put himself in a good stance again so that he can now win in this exchange range between him and Shimazu. He has the range. He's where he needs to be. Now he needs to have good fundamentals with his feet and his hands and just kill Shimazu with block strike. Right. Unfortunately, this foot staying where it is causing some issues for him to be able to fight Shimazu. Because his foot has not moved. He's at the exact same range he was before, at the range where he can hit Shimazu's arm, right? But Shimazu's pulled his hand back, so now Paulo is at a range where he cannot hit Shimazu. Shimazu can hit him because Shimazu he retracted his sword out of the space, and he's not able to be hit there. And now when Paulo swings, he's going to have to swing up body, or he's going to have to overreact and move very violently with his feet, which causes him to leap, coming high into a stance and trying to hit Shimazu there, right? Now, if we go back, had he recovered with his feet, if he had recovered with his feet, he could have easily blocked Shimazu's wrap here. He could have just moved straight in, tried to chop there, and blocked Shimazu's wrap, or done two at the same time. But it's all about that back foot coming up, taking one more step, and really smothering Shimazu with his block strike. And I will say this is not me harking on Paulo's feet. This is simply a diagnosis of how to properly implement your tools and your weapons and how to get them onto the metaphorical field of battle. If you can never use your primary tools against your opponent, and your opponent's always using their primary tools, they're probably going to win, right? And having good feet, in this case, being a good block strike, being a good block striker there, having good feet is so important so that you can get in range and smother people with your block strike. And actually, I just want to go back and really show this is actually really awesome on Paulo's part. He catches Shimazu. He's baiting Shimazu in. Shimazu feels confident. He learned from the first exchange with Shimazu that he's going to commit to the movement. Shimazu commits so hard to this attack. He's going to get the block strike, boom, gets him. Now he does get in the arm here, but he hits Shimazu in the shoulder. Now, from Shimazu's part, if he didn't commit so hard with this first movement, notice, all of his weight is forward onto this leg. This leg is up, not supporting him. He can't move, right? If you're going to throw this outside shot as lefty, this foot needs to be, oh, that's a terrible drawing. This foot needs to be down. It needs to be planted so that you're able to block strike, right? Now, let's say Shimazu's torso is vertical, right? Decent posture, but his foot is up, right? All the good posture in the world doesn't matter if your foot is up and you can't move. If this foot was down, Shimazu would be in a pretty good spot to probably still fight Paulo, right? Or he could reposition to this way and take the inside if he wanted to or something. It just depends. But the whole point is, in order to make more actions after you've made your first action, you need good footwork, right? Kills him. Boom. There's a quote from someone I heard on TikTok or a TED Talk once that said, "Intelligence is defined as the ability to take action that allows for future freedom of action." And that's what everyone really needs to think about when they think about footwork. Your feet need to be able to support your behaviors. If your behaviors are causing you to not be able to use your feet, you're working the problem from the wrong direction. Feet first, then your hands. Because the better my feet are, the more actions I can make. The more actions I can make, the faster I am. The more I can act out my opponent. Here's another example. Paulus throws the same setup they threw before. He's going to get punished in the same exact way. He makes his first movement before he really takes a step. This is not good. He reaches for this attack. He's already reaching. He takes a little bit of step here. I want to see how far this first step is, actually. So this first step, probably 18 inches, 2 feet. Takes his first step, but he lunges. Not even close enough to contact Shimazu yet. Leans as he throws this, he leans with it and gets hit because he's leaning. Now, another thing, he throws this outside feint, sword position. His sword position is too far. When you really throw this feint as a lefty, you need to touch them. You need to touch their glove or something. If you're not touching their glove, you're too far away. Throws this feint, again, what I said before about the geometry. Sword is, oh god dang, that's terrible. Sword is vertical. Sword is vertical, right? There's nothing intersecting across. And what I want to see is, I don't always like doing this feint from range, because you're feinting to the outside. Your opponent there's a lot of context for you as the person doing it, to where you like, oh crap, they'll probably hit me in the center, right? And because you're thinking about the center, you're like, I need to get back to guard faster. So as you're doing it, you're not thinking about the shot coming over here. I really like throwing across or backhanded, something to cover my inside. And ideally, again, the position that I want is, when I throw this feint, I want my hand kind of up here, vertically, and I want my sword here, ideally, right? I want it intersecting across my opponent's sword. That'll give me at least 45 degrees of intersection and leeway, to where my opponent's sword might be over and under somewhere right here, but it doesn't matter because it's going to catch. So I really like pump faking out and coming across, kind of getting that same stimulus where you're throwing a fake to the outside and coming back in. I kind of like just moving, pump faking out and throwing back in to close distance on my opponent, so I don't actually ever open my guard, and my opponent has less things they can possibly do to me. When I throw this really big feint, if I throw this really big feint against an opponent, it's usually that I know that they're going to stand there and just move their hand around. In Shimazu's case, he's like, I'm just going to back up. So when you throw this really big feint and he backs up, you don't gain anything from it, and you only expose yourself. Okay, let's go back. I know it's a little long-winded. And again, he gets caught on the outside as he's coming back in. Another thing is, just if people know cone theory or any block striker, the issue here is with the hand. The cone is projected. I just gonna keep talking about this. The cone is projected like this, right? Sorry, that's terrible. The cone is basically projected from here to here, right? And it's three-dimensional, right? Paulo's hand isn't even in the cone, and Shimazu's is. Shimazu has all the threat that he needs to be able to hit Paulo wherever he wants. If that makes sense, right? His hand's at the bottom of the cone. When you're throwing this feint, even if you do throw it, do not move your hand like lower than maybe this point here, right? Just because it's not in the cone anymore and it can't defend you. Again, I haven't said this before, keep your equipment between you and your opponent when you're hand match fighting. And now his hand has to come back up into the cone, and even if his hand's out of the cone as he starts the attack, if his hand's out of the cone, his opponent can't hit it. But the issue is his hand's coming back into it, and it's exposed to the outside. If he's going to come back out, that hand has to come out, not straight up. If it comes straight up, again, there's a 50-50 chance it gets hit on the inside of the outside. There we go. It's on the outside again. They're hand matched again. Well, no, they're not. They're cross-handed. Shimazu's feeling himself. I think Shimazu's feeling a little bit more divey. Like he wants to dive Paulo a little bit more. Throw these really committed attacks. Because he killed him with that stab earlier. But he still has the weapon of always being able to back up and hit Paulo. He's always got that in his back pocket. Like that. Paulo gets his sword to move out. Got Shimazu's sword to move out of position. See, just this little hand dip. He got Shimazu's hand to move, which is important. He might be able to use that later on. Paulo being very disciplined here. Good footwork there by Paulo. He got his back foot up. That was very nice. But, again, I know I just praised him because he did a good footwork thing. It was very good, actually. We're going to show this overcommitment. So the issue is when you stance up and you're not moving, your opponent knows exactly how far you can move, right? Because you're with your body language, you're setting the range, and you're already setting the range with your opponent. You're like, what the heck? I can fight you from here is basically what they're saying. Except when you keep loose and you keep moving and moving around, they don't actually know where the attack's going to manifest. But when you stand there, they know exactly how far you can go, and basically like, all right, I'm ready to fight. And that signals to your opponent to be more defensive, and then signals them to be ready. It's a tell, right? It's not a good tell either. Okay, that's ready. So he's going to take this first step. Again, lunges, very far to the range. Lunges too far away from his opponent. Misses with his attack. Shimazu's in a good foot, body, and hand position. Something also Shimazu's doing. Shimazu is pulling his hand out of the cone, so it can't be interacted with. Even if Paulo threw this first attack, Shimazu just pulled. Even if he would have hit with his attack, Shimazu's pulling his hand out of the cone, and Paulo's sword has nowhere to go. So if we look at Paulo's cone, it's from there to there, right? Paulo's hand isn't close to the cone at all. Shimazu's hand's at the tip of the cone, but it's still inside. I don't know if that's a relevant detail. But the point is, his sword is not between him and his opponent. And he's going to get hit for it. Forcing to take the death. So anyway, I'm going to stop there with that fight because I think it covers a lot. But basically, to go back, your feet need to come before your hands. you need to be very conscious of how you're moving your feet when you attack. When you're direct attacking, you're trying to set up attack. If your feet are not in the right position, you will not be able to continue your attack, and it's going to be detrimental to your ability to continue to fight your opponent. Second thing, weaponizing your skills, right? Whatever your game is, whatever your skills are, you need to find all the possible ways that you can possibly bring that skill to bear against your opponent. If your opponent has more skills than you do, or they can bring their skills ahead of your skills, they will win the fight. Okay? And part of that is not having holes in the type of game that you want to play. If you're a block striker or you like to do that, you need to make sure you can weaponize it offensively, like starting the fight, using progressive attacks. Make sure you're not getting caught as you come in, as much as you are probably taking a step back and try to get your eliciting responses against your opponent to try to get them to overextend. If you have an opponent that will not overextend, you are going to need to browbeat your way into their guard, into their space, take it over without getting hit, and then and smother them with your skills. Just as an example. Oop, wasn't supposed to do that. So yeah, find ways to weaponize your skills in a very wide array of doing that with different tactics and strategies and stuff like that. Feet before your hands. Don't overcommit super hard on direct attacks if you do not have good footwork, because you will get punished for them. And just because you're not getting punished for them now doesn't mean you won't get punished for them later. And if you don't recognize it until later, you're going to have a very difficult road trying to fix those skills. Anyway, this has been it for my segment of 1v1 covers. I guess this is tournament coverage. So if you guys have any questions, you can go to my Discord, Swift Combat and Fitness Discord. You can post videos there and I'll review them. I'll try to get videos posted on my Discord. I just post them in the coach review part. If you like this video, do like, comment, share, subscribe, stuff like that. I post these videos all over Facebook, basically. But if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. I'm Adam Harrigan, and join my Discord. Anyway, check you guys later. Bye.